I was staring at my wife's phone, watching a video of her in our bed with my business partner, when she walked into the kitchen and asked what I wanted for dinner. The phone wasn't even locked. She'd left it on the counter while she went to shower, and a notification popped up. A message from someone named D with a thumbnail that made my stomach drop. I knew I shouldn't look. 15 years of marriage, 3 kids, a mortgage we just refinanced. You tell yourself you trust your spouse. You tell yourself there's always an explanation. But my hand moved anyway. The video was from 2 weeks ago. I recognized the comforter, the one Amanda had insisted we buy from that boutique store in Portland. $800 for Egyptian cotton. I'd complained about the price. Now I was watching her tangle those sheets with Derek Paulson, the guy who'd been my right hand at Paulson and Webb Construction for 6 years. "Babe?" Amanda's voice cut through the ringing in my ears. "You okay? You look pale." I looked up at her. She was wearing my old college sweatshirt, her dark hair still damp from the shower, face fresh and makeup-free. This was the woman I'd fallen in love with at 23. The woman who'd held my hand through my father's funeral. The mother of my children. The woman whose phone contained 17 similar videos, based on the quick scroll I'd just done. "I'm fine," I heard myself say. My voice sounded normal, steady. "Just got a weird email from the Riverside project." She wrinkled her nose. "Work stuff on a Friday night? Come on, it's almost 6. The kids will be home from your mom's soon." The kids. Tyler was 13, Madison 11, and Sophie had just turned 7. They were at my mother's house for her birthday dinner. We were supposed to pick them up at 8. "Right," I said. I slipped her phone into my pocket. "Actually, I think I need to run to the office. There's an issue with the permits that can't wait until Monday." Amanda sighed, but she was used to this. Construction didn't follow a 9-to-5 schedule. "Okay, but be back by 7:30. I'm not picking them up alone. Your mother will talk my ear off about her book club again." I grabbed my keys and walked out to my truck, Amanda's phone burning a hole in my pocket. My hands were shaking so badly I had to try 3 times to get the key in the ignition. I didn't go to the office. I drove to the parking lot behind the closed library and sat there, going through everything methodically. I'd built a successful business by being thorough, by checking every detail twice. This deserved the same attention. The messages went back 8 months. 8 months of "can't wait to see you" and "he's working late again," and detailed discussions about when and where. My house, Derek's apartment. Once, and this one actually made me laugh, a sharp bark of sound in the empty truck, in the construction trailer at the Riverside site. The same trailer where I'd been reviewing blueprints while they were apparently reviewing each other. There were photos, videos, voice messages where Amanda's breathy laugh, the one I thought was reserved for me, filled my truck cab. I found the pattern easily enough. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons when I was usually at job sites. The occasional weekend when I took the kids to soccer or swim practice. Amanda worked from home as a medical transcriptionist, setting her own hours. Derek's schedule was flexible too, since he mostly handled client relations and bidding while I managed the actual construction. They'd been careful. Sort of. Not careful enough to use a burner phone or delete the evidence, apparently. My phone buzzed. "Amanda. Where are you? It's almost 7. I'd been sitting in the parking lot for over an hour. I drove back home on autopilot, my mind already shifting into problem-solving mode. This was like any other crisis on a job site. You assessed the damage, you figured out what could be salvaged, you made a plan. Except this wasn't a foundation crack or a permit delay. This was my entire life. Amanda was in the living room when I got home, scrolling through her laptop. She looked up with a frown. "That was fast. Thought you had a permit emergency?" Turned out to be nothing. Email confusion. I held up her phone. "You left this on the counter." "Oh, thanks." She took it without a second glance, immediately checking something. I watched her face. No panic, no guilt, just Amanda checking her messages like always. How many times had I watched her do this exact thing, never knowing what she was really looking at? "We should get the kids," she said, standing up. "Your mom texted me. Apparently Sophie ate 3 pieces of cake and might be on a sugar high." We drove to my mother's house together, Amanda chatting about her day, about a difficult audio file she'd transcribed, about Madison's upcoming science fair project. Normal conversation, normal marriage. I made appropriate responses while my mind raced through options. The kids piled into the back seat, Sophie immediately launching into a detailed description of Grandma's new cat. Tyler had his headphones in, ignoring everyone. Madison wanted to stop for ice cream even though she'd just had cake. I watched Amanda in the passenger seat, laughing at something Sophie said, reaching back to ruffle our youngest daughter's hair. And I thought, she has no idea. No idea that I know. No idea what's coming. That gave me something I hadn't had an hour ago. Power, control, time. I wasn't going to confront her tonight. I wasn't going to do anything tonight except be a normal husband and father. Because before I blew up my life, our lives, I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. And I needed proof that would hold up in court. I spent the weekend being the best husband and father I knew how to be. Saturday morning, I made pancakes while Amanda slept in. Sophie sat at the kitchen counter, swinging her legs and describing every detail of a dream she'd had about a talking dolphin. Tyler scrolled through his phone, offering occasional grunts. Madison helped me flip the pancakes, concentrating so hard her tongue stuck out slightly. "Dad, these are burning," she said, pointing at the edges going dark. "You're right. Good catch." I scraped the ruined pancakes into the trash and started fresh. My hands were steady. That was the thing that surprised me most, how steady everything was. How normal I could make it all seem. Amanda came downstairs around 9, wearing one of my old UNLV shirts and pajama pants. Her hair was messy, her face still creased from the pillow. "You made breakfast," she said, smiling. "What's the occasion?" "No occasion, just Saturday." She kissed my cheek. Her lips were warm. I didn't pull away. After breakfast, I took Tyler to his basketball practice while Amanda drove the girls to Madison's friend's birthday party at a trampoline park. We coordinated like we always did. Who had which kid, what time to pick them up, whether we needed to stop for gas. The machinery of our family life ran smoothly because we'd built it to run that way. I sat in the bleachers at the community center, watching Tyler run drills. My phone was in my pocket, heavy with knowledge. I'd transferred all the evidence to a secure cloud account Friday night, then deleted it from her phone while she slept. Restored everything exactly as it had been. She'd never know I'd seen it. Not yet. The other dads around me talked about work, about the Knights' chances this season, about whether the Heat would break before October. I participated, made jokes, complained about permit delays on a commercial project downtown. Normal conversation, normal Saturday. But in the back of my mind, I was planning. Monday morning, I'd make an appointment with an attorney. Not just any attorney, the best divorce attorney in Las Vegas. I'd already done the research sitting in my truck Sunday night while Amanda watched a movie inside. Patricia Brennan, 43 years old, graduated from Georgetown Law, specialized in high-asset divorces and complex marital property cases. Her reviews mentioned her strategic thinking and her ability to anticipate opposing counsel's moves. I needed someone who could think like I did. Someone who understood that this wasn't about emotion, it was about outcome. But first, I had another problem to solve. Sunday evening, after the kids were in bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open. Amanda was upstairs taking a bath. I could hear the water running through the pipes. I logged into our pension dashboard. We'd set it up 3 years ago when Amanda had suggested we start taking retirement planning more seriously. She'd been right. We were in our early 40s, and we needed to think about the future. I had a 401k through the business, and Amanda had a pension from her previous job at Sunrise Medical Center, where she'd worked for 8 years before switching to freelance transcription. The dashboard aggregated everything in one place: my 401k, her pension, our IRAs, our projected Social Security benefits. It calculated retirement scenarios based on different ages and contribution rates. Amanda loved it. She'd check it monthly, adjusting the projections, talking about where we might retire someday. Maybe somewhere cooler than Vegas. Maybe Colorado or Northern California. I clicked through to her pension details. Sunrise Medical Center had a defined benefit plan, increasingly rare these days. She'd be vested at 15 years of combined service, which meant she'd hit full vesting in 7 more years, even though she'd left the organization. The monthly benefit at age 65 would be around $2,800. Not huge, but significant. I scrolled down to the beneficiary information. Primary beneficiary, Tyler Webb, son, 33.3%. Primary beneficiary, Madison Webb, daughter, 33.3%. Primary beneficiary, Sophie Webb, daughter, 33.3%. That was what I expected. We'd set it up together, sitting at the same table, deciding that if anything happened to Amanda, the pension survivor benefits should go to the kids equally. But there was a section I'd never paid much attention to before: a trustee designation for minor beneficiaries. I clicked on it. My stomach dropped. Trustee for minor beneficiaries, Derek Paulson. Relationship, family friend. Appointed, March 15th, 2024. March 15th. 5 months ago. Right in the middle of the affair timeline. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. If Amanda died, her pension survivor benefits would go to our children. But since they were minors, those benefits would be managed by a trustee until each child reached 18. And she'd named Derek as that trustee. Derek, who'd been sleeping with her in our bed. Who'd been her partner in this betrayal for 8 months. Derek, who'd have control over potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars meant for my children. The water shut off upstairs. I heard Amanda moving around in the bathroom, the cabinet opening and closing. I clicked into the change history. The previous trustee had been me. Of course it had been. That's what we'd set up together. But on March 15th, she'd logged in and changed it. I checked the timestamp. 2:47 p.m. on a Friday. I pulled up my calendar from March and scrolled back to the 15th. I'd been at the Riverside project site all day, dealing with a foundation issue that had delayed the pour. I remembered it clearly because I'd been frustrated about losing 2 days of schedule. Amanda had been home alone, and she'd used that time to put Derek in control of our children's financial future. The rage that hit me was different from what I'd felt Friday night. This wasn't about betrayal or humiliation. This was about my kids, about someone trying to position themselves between me and my children's security. I heard Amanda's footsteps on the stairs. I closed the laptop and stood up, moving to the refrigerator. I was pulling out a bottle of water when she walked into the kitchen. "Hey," she said. She'd put on fresh pajamas, and her damp hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked younger like this, more like the woman I'd married. "What are you up to?" "Just checking some project budgets. Wanted to review the numbers before tomorrow." "On a Sunday night?" She smiled, shaking her head. "You work too hard. Someone's got to keep the lights on." She moved closer, wrapping her arms around my waist. I could smell her shampoo, something floral and expensive that she'd switched to a few months ago. "The kids are asleep," she said quietly. "We could watch something, or just talk. We haven't had much time together lately." I looked down at her. Her eyes were soft, affectionate. There was no guilt in them, no indication that she was thinking about Derek or the videos, or the fact that she'd given him control over our children's inheritance. "Sure," I said. "Let me just finish up here." Okay. She kissed my shoulder and headed toward the living room. I'll pick something out. I waited until she was gone, then opened the laptop again. The pension portal had a contact number for beneficiary services. I took a photo of the screen with my phone, making sure the trustee designation was clearly visible. Then I scrolled through the terms and conditions until I found what I was looking for. Beneficiary and trustee designations may be challenged in cases of fraud, coercion, undue influence, or lack of mental capacity. Challenges must be submitted in writing with supporting documentation to the plan administrator within 60 days of discovery. I had 60 days to challenge this, but I wasn't going to wait that long. I opened a new browser tab and searched for the Sunrise Medical Center Pension Plan Administrator. Found a name, Gregory Walsh, Director of Benefits Administration. I drafted an email in my head. Professional. Factual. Not emotional. Dear Mr. Walsh, I am writing to formally challenge a recent trustee designation change on my spouse's pension account. I have discovered that my wife, Amanda Webb, changed the trustee for minor beneficiaries from myself to a third party with whom she is having an extramarital affair. This change was made without my knowledge and appears to constitute fraud and breach of fiduciary duty to our minor children. I would like to request an immediate investigation and reversal of this designation. I am prepared to provide documentation of the affair and evidence that the designation was made in furtherance of an improper relationship. I closed the laptop without sending anything. Not yet. I needed to talk to the attorney first, understand the full legal implications. But this was leverage. This was something concrete I could use. Babe, Amanda called from the living room. Are you coming? Yeah, 2 minutes. I took a breath, let it out slowly. My hands were steady. My mind was clear. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. This was about protecting my children from someone who'd proven they couldn't be trusted. Someone who'd been working with my wife to position himself in our family's financial structure. I thought about Tuesday mornings, about Derek and me reviewing project schedules over coffee in the construction trailer, about him asking about Amanda, about the kids, always so friendly and interested. He'd been planning this. They both had been. I walked into the living room. Amanda had curled up on the couch with a blanket, the remote in her hand. I was thinking that new thriller everyone's talking about, she said. Unless you're too tired? No, that sounds good. I sat down next to her. She leaned against me, fitting herself into the curve of my shoulder like she'd done 1,000 times before. The movie started. I watched without seeing it, my mind already 3 steps ahead. Tomorrow, I'd call Patricia Brennan. I'd explain everything, the affair, the videos, the trustee designation. I'd ask her about fraud claims, about forensic accounting, about how to protect the business assets from Derek's potential claims. And I'd ask her about the pension, about whether changing that trustee designation in the middle of an affair constituted fraud against the plan, about whether it could be reported to the pension board as an attempt to misappropriate marital assets. Amanda laughed at something on screen, her hand resting on my knee. I was going to take everything from them, methodically, legally, completely. They'd made one mistake. They'd gotten greedy, and that was going to cost them everything. I sat in my truck outside the pension board office on East Charleston Boulevard, watching people file in and out of the nondescript building. It was Tuesday morning, 4 days since I'd discovered the trustee change. 4 days of playing the devoted husband while building my case. The pension board appointment was at 10. I'd scheduled it Friday afternoon, right after finding the designation change on our joint retirement dashboard. The representative I'd spoken with, a woman named Carol Jennings, had sounded appropriately concerned when I'd explained that my wife had changed her beneficiary trustee designation to a non-family member without my knowledge. Given that we're talking about survivor benefits for minor children, she'd said, we take these matters very seriously, especially when there's a question of fraud or undue influence. I'd been careful with my words, hadn't mentioned the affair, just focused on the facts. Married 15 years, 3 minor children, wife suddenly changes trustee from husband to business partner, husband discovers it by accident while reviewing joint retirement planning. The appointment confirmation email sat in a dedicated folder on my phone. Same folder where I'd been collecting everything else. Screenshots of the pension dashboard. Printouts of the beneficiary designation form she'd submitted. The form that required her to attest, under penalty of perjury, that she'd informed her spouse of the change. She hadn't informed me of anything. I grabbed my folder from the passenger seat and headed inside. The lobby was typical government office. Fluorescent lights, worn carpet, chairs that had seen better decades. A security guard nodded at me from behind a desk. Pension administration is 3rd floor, he said. The elevator smelled like burnt coffee and someone's lunch. I watched the numbers climb and thought about Amanda that morning, sitting at the kitchen table in her pajamas, complaining about a difficult audio file she was transcribing. Some doctor who mumbled through his patient notes. "I swear I'm going to bill him double," she'd said, laughing. "Make him speak clearly, or pay the price." I'd kissed the top of her head, told her I had meetings all morning. She'd barely looked up from her laptop. The 3rd floor opened into a waiting area with a receptionist behind plexiglass. I gave my name and took a seat. The chairs here weren't any better than downstairs. Carol Jennings appeared 10 minutes later. She was maybe 50, gray hair pulled back, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She shook my hand with a firm grip. "Mr. Webb, come on back." Her office was small but organized. File cabinets lined one wall, certificates and compliance notices covered another. She gestured to a chair across from her desk. "Thank you for coming in," she said, settling into her own chair. "I've pulled your wife's account information. Before we begin, I need to verify your identity and relationship to the account holder." I handed over my driver's license and our marriage certificate. I'd stopped by the county clerk's office yesterday to get a certified copy. She examined both documents, made notes on a form, then turned to her computer screen. "All right. You mentioned on the phone that you discovered a beneficiary designation change that you weren't aware of. Can you walk me through what you found?" I opened my folder and pulled out the first screenshot. My wife and I have a joint retirement dashboard. We set it up 3 years ago when we were doing our estate planning. It aggregates both our retirement accounts, my 401k, her pension, our IRAs. Makes it easier to see the full picture. Carol nodded, making notes. On Friday evening, I was reviewing our projections. Just routine check-in, making sure we're on track. I noticed that the trustee designation on her pension survivor benefits had changed. Instead of me as trustee for our minor children, it now lists Derek Paulson. I slid the screenshot across her desk. She studied it carefully. "Derek Paulson is your business partner, correct? That's what you mentioned on the phone." "Yes, we co-own Paulson and Webb Construction, have for 6 years. "And you were not informed of this change?" "No, I found out by seeing it on the dashboard." Carol pulled up something on her computer, scrolling through what I assumed was Amanda's account history. Her expression remained neutral, but I saw her eyes narrow slightly. The designation change was submitted on March 14th of this year. Does that date mean anything to you? March 14th. I pulled out my phone, opened my calendar, scrolled back. There it was. That was a Thursday. I was in Reno that day, meeting with a potential client about a commercial project. Left early morning, didn't get back until late. "And your wife?" "She works from home. Medical transcriptionist. She would have been here in Las Vegas." Carol made more notes. "The form requires the account holder to attest that they've informed their spouse of any beneficiary changes, particularly when it involves minor children. Did she discuss this change with you at any time, before or after March 14th? "Never." "And you're certain of that?" "Completely certain. This is not something I would forget or overlook. We're talking about who would manage potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars for our children if something happened to her. That's not a casual conversation. Carol leaned back in her chair, her expression thoughtful. Mr. Webb, I need to be direct with you. What you're describing raises serious concerns about the validity of this designation. When an account holder makes a false attestation on a beneficiary form, that can constitute fraud. That's why I'm here. She nodded slowly. I'm going to need to get some additional information from you. Do you have any documentation that might support your claim that you were not informed? Emails, text messages, anything like that? I'd anticipated this question. I can't prove a negative. I can't show you a conversation that never happened. But I can provide context. I have our estate planning documents from 2 years ago, which clearly name me as trustee for any benefits going to our children. I have no emails or messages discussing a change to that arrangement. And I have documentation showing I was out of town the day she submitted this form. I pulled out the estate planning documents, the hotel receipt from Reno, the meeting confirmation with the commercial client. Carol examined each item. This is helpful. I'm also going to need to contact your wife directly. She'll need to provide her side of this. I understand. Are you comfortable with me doing that? She'll know you've raised a concern about the designation. This was the moment. Once Carol contacted Amanda, the facade would crack. Amanda would know I'd discovered something. She might not know about the videos yet, but she'd know I was questioning the pension change. I'd thought about this carefully over the weekend, weighed the options, decided that controlling the narrative was more important than maintaining complete secrecy. I'm comfortable with it, I said. This needs to be resolved. Carol made a note on her form. Given the seriousness of this situation, I'm going to initiate a formal investigation. That means the designation change will be placed on hold pending our review. Mr. Paulson will not have any access to the account or authority over any benefits unless and until we determine the designation is valid. What happens if you determine it's not valid? Then we'll revert to the previous designation. You would be reinstated as trustee for the minor children's survivor benefits. And depending on what our investigation reveals, there could be additional consequences for your wife. False attestation on a beneficiary form is taken very seriously by this board and by federal pension regulators. She pulled out a multi-page form. I'm going to need you to fill out a formal complaint. It's going to ask for specific details about your discovery, your relationship to the account holder, and any evidence you have that the designation was made fraudulently. I took the form and started reading. The questions were thorough. Date of discovery, relationship to account holder, specific claims being made, supporting evidence. I filled it out carefully, precisely, kept my language factual and unemotional. This wasn't about the affair, not yet. This was about a fraudulent beneficiary designation that violated pension board rules and federal regulations. When I finished, Carol reviewed the form, asked a few clarifying questions, then had me sign and date it. This will take some time to investigate, she said. Probably several weeks. I'll be contacting your wife within the next few business days. I'll also need to contact Mr. Paulson since he's the named trustee. That was fine. Let Derek get a call from the pension board asking why he'd been named trustee for his business partner's wife's survivor benefits. Let him try to explain that. One more thing, Carol said. You mentioned you discovered this through a joint retirement dashboard. Do you have administrative access to your wife's pension account? Only viewing access. The dashboard aggregates information but doesn't give me the ability to make changes to her account. She has to do that herself through the pension board's website. Good. That's important. It means there's a clear electronic record of who made the change and when. She paused. Mr. Webb, I have to ask, is there anything else going on here that I should be aware of? Any other issues with the account or your wife's management of it? I met her eyes. I'm in the process of consulting with an attorney about other matters, but as far as the pension account itself, this is the only irregularity I've discovered. She understood. I could see it in her face. She'd been doing this job long enough to know what consulting with an attorney about other matters meant when a husband came in questioning his wife's beneficiary designation to another man. "All right," she said. "I'll be in touch as the investigation progresses. You should hear from me within 2 weeks, possibly sooner." I shook her hand and left. In the elevator, I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app where I'd been tracking everything. Tuesday, 10:47 a.m. Pension Board complaint filed. Investigation initiated. Designation on hold. Carol Jennings to contact Amanda within days. The next item on my list was Patricia Brennan's office. Appointment at 2 o'clock. I had 3 hours to kill. I drove to a coffee shop on West Sahara, ordered something I didn't really want, and sat in a corner booth reviewing my documentation. The videos were still there in my secure cloud account. The messages. The timeline I'd built showing 8 months of betrayal. And now, the pension fraud. My phone buzzed. Text from Amanda. "Sophie's school called. She forgot her lunch. Can you drop it off? I'm on a deadline with this file." I stared at the message. Our 7-year-old forgot her lunch, and Amanda wanted me to handle it because she was busy transcribing some doctor's notes. Meanwhile, she'd tried to put my business partner in control of our children's financial future. "I'm across town. Can you take a break?" 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "Fine. I'll do it." I set the phone down and went back to my documentation. Patricia Brennan needed to see all of this. The affair, the videos, the financial betrayal. Everything. The pension board would handle their investigation. Patricia would handle the divorce. And I would handle making sure Amanda understood exactly what she'd lost. The pension board's investigation department worked faster than I expected. Tuesday morning, while I was reviewing the Riverside Project's foundation specs in my home office, my phone buzzed with an email from the Nevada Public Employees Retirement System. Subject line: Beneficiary Designation Inquiry, Case 2024 FR 1847. I read it twice. They were requesting additional documentation to support my fraud claim. Specifically, they wanted proof of my whereabouts during the March 14th date when the beneficiary change was submitted. They also needed copies of our marriage certificate, my identification, and a notarized statement confirming I had no knowledge of or consent to the trustee designation change. The email concluded with a paragraph that made my pulse quicken. "Please be advised that the account holder has been notified of this inquiry and will be contacted separately for verification purposes." Amanda knew. I checked the timestamp. The email had arrived at 9:47 a.m. It was now 10:15. I walked downstairs. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of Amanda's fingers on her keyboard. She worked in the converted den off the living room, door usually open, transcribing medical reports in her headphones. Today the door was closed. I stood in the hallway for a moment, listening. No typing. No movement. Just silence behind that white-painted door. My phone buzzed again. Text from Derek. "We need to talk, now." I deleted it without responding. The den door opened. Amanda stood there, still in her pajama pants and one of my old University of Nevada sweatshirts, her face pale and makeup-free. She was holding her phone. "I got a weird email," she said. Her voice was steady, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. "From the pension board. They're saying there's an investigation into my beneficiary designation." I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman I'd built a life with. The mother of my children. The person who'd changed her pension trustee to her lover while I was in Reno closing the Riverside deal. "That's strange," I said. "They're saying someone filed a fraud complaint." She was watching my face carefully. "Do you know anything about this?" Why would I know anything about your pension? Because we review it together. The joint dashboard. Her grip tightened on her phone. Someone claimed the trustee designation was made fraudulently, but I changed it myself. I have the right to name whoever I want as trustee. Sure, I said. Who'd you name? The question hung between us. I watched her calculate, trying to figure out how much I knew, what trap I might be setting. I updated it to a trust structure, she said finally, for the kids' protection. A trust structure? Yes, with a professional trustee to manage the funds if something happened to me. She was gaining confidence now, building the lie. I didn't mention it because it seemed like a routine administrative thing. You were so stressed about the Riverside project, I didn't want to bother you with paperwork. What's the trustee's name? Her eyes flickered. It's a corporate trustee, through a financial services company. Which one? I don't remember the exact name off the top of my head. I'd have to check the paperwork. I nodded slowly. The pension board is going to want to see that paperwork. They're asking for verification of the trustee designation, corporate structure, registration documents, that sort of thing. The color drained from her face. They sent you an email too, she asked. They're conducting an investigation. They contact all relevant parties. But why? Why would there be an investigation unless someone… She stopped. Her eyes narrowed. You filed the complaint. I didn't answer. Why would you do that? Her voice was rising now. You had no right. That's my pension, my beneficiary designation. You can't just what? Question why my wife secretly changed her pension trustee to someone else while I was out of town? Can't wonder why she'd hide a major financial decision affecting our children's security? It wasn't secret. I told you. I just didn't mention it because… Because what, Amanda? Because you were busy? Because it slipped your mind? Because you were too distracted on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons? Her face went completely still. The silence stretched between us. I could see her mind working, trying to figure out exactly what I knew, how much evidence I had. I don't know what you're implying, she said quietly. The pension board disagrees with your trust story. They have no record of any corporate trustee. What they have is a beneficiary designation form naming Derek Paulson as trustee for survivor benefits payable to our minor children. She actually took a step back. That's not… It's dated March 14th, submitted electronically using your login credentials at 2:47 p.m. I was in Reno that day. You told me you had a parent-teacher conference at Madison School at 2:30. I can explain. Don't! The word came out harder than I intended. Don't insult me with more lies. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it reflexively. I saw Derek's name on the screen before she turned it away. He's wondering what to do, I said. He got notified too. The pension board contacts the named trustee as part of fraud investigations. Professional protocol. Amanda's hand was shaking now. This is insane. You're making this into something it's not. Derek is our business partner. I thought if something happened to me, he could help manage things for the kids. You're always so busy with the company, and I just thought… You thought your lover should control hundreds of thousands of dollars of our children's inheritance. The words landed like a physical blow. She actually stumbled, reaching out to steady herself against the doorframe. How long have you known? She whispered. Long enough. I can explain. It wasn't supposed to… She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. Please, the kids. We can fix this. We can work through this. My phone buzzed. Email from Patricia Brennan's office. Documents received and reviewed. Can you come in Thursday at 2 p.m.? We need to discuss timeline and strategy. I looked at Amanda, still crying in the doorway, her phone buzzing with what I knew were increasingly desperate messages from Derek. The pension board is going to reverse the designation, I said. They've already started the process. Fraudulent beneficiary changes made during an extramarital affair don't hold up well under scrutiny, especially when the named trustee is the affair partner. You can't do this. I already did. They'll notify you officially within 48 hours. The reversal will be retroactive to the date of the fraudulent change. That's my pension, my money. Your pension, our marriage, our kids' security. I turned toward the stairs. You gambled with all of it. For what? Tuesday afternoon hookups while I was at job sites? Where are you going? To my lawyer. We have an appointment to discuss asset division and custody arrangements. No, please, we can fix this. I'll end it. I'll do whatever you want. Please don't do this to our family. I stopped on the third step. I'm not doing anything to our family. You did this. 8 months ago. Every Tuesday and Thursday. Every weekend you sent me out with the kids so you could have the house to yourself. How did you... She caught herself, but too late. Your phone. You left it on the kitchen counter, unlocked. The realization hit her. I watched her mentally scroll through everything on that phone. The videos, the messages, the detailed planning of their meetings. You've had this for days, she said slowly. You've known for days and you didn't say anything. You've been planning this. The pension investigation, the lawyer. You've been planning all of this. Yes. While acting like everything was normal, while sleeping next to me, while having dinner with the kids, while you did the same thing for 8 months. Her phone rang. Derek's name flashed on the screen. She didn't answer it. What happens now? She asked. Now the pension board completes their investigation. They'll reverse the fraudulent designation and flag your account for monitoring. They'll likely impose restrictions on future beneficiary changes pending the outcome of our divorce. Divorce. Did you think there was another option? I thought we could. You thought wrong. I continued up the stairs. Behind me, I heard her phone ring again. Then again. Derek was panicking. Good. In my office, I pulled up the email from Patricia Brennan's assistant and confirmed the Thursday appointment. Then I opened the shared folder where I'd stored all the evidence. 17 videos, hundreds of messages, bank statements showing cash withdrawals that coincided with hotel charges on Derek's credit card. That little detail had taken some digging through our business expense reports. And now, the pension fraud documentation. My phone buzzed with another text from Derek. She won't answer. What did you tell her? We need to coordinate our response to the pension board. I smiled. They still thought they could manage this. Control the narrative. Coordinate their stories. They had no idea what was coming. The pension board investigator called me Tuesday morning while I was reviewing the Riverside project cost overruns in my truck. Mr. Webb, this is Janice Kowalski from NV Peers Compliance. I need to schedule a formal interview regarding the beneficiary designation fraud complaint you filed. I pulled out my notebook. When? Thursday at 10 a.m., our downtown office. We'll need you to bring any documentation supporting your claim that the designation was made fraudulently. I'll be there, she paused. Mr. Webb, I should inform you that we've already identified several irregularities. The IP address used to make the change doesn't match your wife's typical login location. It originated from a commercial building in Henderson. Derek's office building. That's interesting, I said. We're also seeing that the trustee designation form was filed during a time your wife's employment records show she was logged into the county medical transcription system from your home address. She couldn't have been in 2 places simultaneously. I wrote that down. What happens next? The investigation continues. We've frozen all beneficiary designations on her account pending resolution. If we determine fraud occurred, we'll refer it to the Nevada Attorney General's office for potential criminal charges. Criminal charges. I let that sink in. One more thing, Kowalski said. The trustee named on the designation, Derek Paulson. We contacted him yesterday to verify his awareness of the appointment. He became extremely agitated and claimed he had no knowledge of being named. Then he immediately retained legal counsel and refused further comment. Derek was panicking. Good. Thank you for the update, I said. We'll see you Thursday. I sat in the truck for a moment after she hung up, watching workers move materials on the Riverside site. The project was 3 weeks behind schedule and $40,000 over budget. Derek's mess. He'd been distracted for months, and now I knew why. My phone buzzed. Patricia Brennan. We got the preliminary asset disclosure from Amanda's attorney, she said. Jeffrey Thornton from Thornton and Associates. He's competent but predictable. And? They're claiming the pension designation was a clerical error. Amanda supposedly meant to update the children as primary beneficiaries and accidentally selected the trustee field instead. She's requesting we withdraw the fraud complaint in exchange for immediate correction. I laughed. Actually laughed. She's trying to negotiate? It gets better. They're also claiming reconciliation is possible and that your hasty filing is damaging the marriage's chance of repair. She changed the trustee to her boyfriend during a supposed parent-teacher conference, Patricia. There's no reconciliation. I know. I told Thornton that in less diplomatic terms. But here's what matters. They're scared of the pension investigation. If NV PERS refers this to the AG, Amanda could face criminal fraud charges. That would devastate her position in the divorce. I watched a forklift move a pallet of drywall. So they want me to drop it. Desperately, Thornton hinted they'd be willing to concede on several property division points if you withdraw the complaint. No. That's what I told him you'd say, but I needed you to hear the offer officially. What about the business valuation? I asked. That's where it gets complicated. Amanda's claiming she contributed significantly to Paulson and Webb's success through administrative support and client relationship management. She wants 40% of your share's value. My hand tightened on the phone. She answered emails occasionally and attended 2 client dinners in 15 years. I know. But Thornton's building a narrative that she provided essential behind-the-scenes support that enabled your success. They're going to argue for enhanced spousal support based on her sacrifice of career advancement to support your business, while sleeping with my business partner, which we'll absolutely use. But Nevada's a no-fault state, so the affair itself doesn't impact property division. However, I could hear papers rustling. The pension fraud attempt shows intent to financially harm you and the children. That's different. That goes to character and trustworthiness regarding asset disclosure. Meaning I'm going to request the court order a complete forensic accounting of all marital assets. If Amanda was willing to manipulate pension beneficiaries, what else has she manipulated? We need to examine every account, every transaction, every asset. I hadn't thought of that. You think there's more? I think people who commit financial fraud rarely do it just once. And I think Derek Paulson being named trustee for your children's survivor benefits suggests a level of planning that goes beyond a simple affair. She was right. The trustee designation wasn't impulsive. It was strategic. If something happened to both Amanda and me, Derek would control potentially hundreds of thousands in pension survivor benefits for Tyler, Madison, and Sophie until they turned 18. File for the forensic accounting, I said. Already drafted. I'm submitting it this afternoon. Fair warning. This will escalate things significantly. Amanda's legal fees will increase, which means she'll demand you cover them as the higher earner. And the forensic accountant's fees will run $15,000 to $20,000. I don't care. I want to know everything. Understood. One more thing. Derek Paulson. Have you had any contact with him since Friday? No. Keep it that way. Don't talk to him. Don't text him. Don't acknowledge him if you see him. Everything goes through attorneys now. He's hired Levinson and Hart for representation. Big firm. Expensive. He's worried. He should be. If the pension board confirms fraud and identifies him as a knowing participant, he's potentially liable both criminally and civilly. You could sue him personally for damages. I wrote that down too. What about the business? That's the nuclear option. As 50% partners, you and Derek have equal ownership. But the partnership agreement you showed me has a morality clause. Either partner can force buyout if the other engages in conduct detrimental to the business reputation. Sleeping with your partner's wife qualifies? Absolutely. But forced buyout requires business valuation, which takes time. And Derek could argue that your fraud accusations against Amanda damage the business reputation equally. Except my accusations are true. Correct. Which is why we document everything and let the pension investigation establish the facts. Once NV PERS confirms fraud, Derek's position becomes indefensible. My phone buzzed with another call. Amanda. I need to go, I told Patricia. Don't answer if that's Amanda. I won't. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message. It's me. Amanda's voice was tight, controlled. The pension people called me. They're saying I committed fraud, that I filed the designation from Derek's office when I was supposed to be working. I didn't. A long pause. We need to talk about this. Jeffrey says you're requesting forensic accounting of everything. That's going to cost thousands of dollars we don't have. This is getting out of control. Just call me, please. I deleted the message. The next call was Derek. I didn't listen to that one. Instead, I called my accountant, Robert Fisher. I need you to prepare something for me, I said. A complete breakdown of Paulson and Webb's finances for the last 5 years. Every distribution, every expense, every client payment. Separate my activity from Derek's. This about the divorce? Partially. But I'm also looking at whether Derek's been moving money inappropriately. Robert was quiet for a moment. You want me to look for embezzlement? I want you to look for anything unusual, payments to vendors I don't recognize, expense reimbursements that seem high, client deposits that don't match invoices, anything. That's going to take time. I have time, and Robert, keep this completely confidential. Don't mention it to Derek or anyone at the office. Understood. I'll start pulling records today. I hung up and sat there, watching the construction site. 12 years I'd been building this business. 6 with Derek as partner. 6 years of trusting him with client relationships, financial decisions, the company's reputation. 6 years of him planning to take everything. Because that's what the trustee designation meant. Derek wasn't just sleeping with Amanda. He was positioning himself to control my children's financial future. If Amanda and I both died, Derek would manage their inheritance until they were adults. He'd have access to survivor benefits, life insurance proceeds, potentially the business itself depending on how succession was structured. My phone buzzed again. Text from Tyler. Mom's crying in her room. What's happening? I stared at the message. 13 years old and watching his mother fall apart while his father documented her betrayal. Grown-up stuff. Don't worry about it. Is it about the pension thing? I heard her on the phone. Smart kid. Too smart. Your mom made some mistakes. We're fixing them. You focus on school. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, okay. I put the phone down and started the truck. Thursday, I'd meet with the pension investigator. Friday, Patricia was filing the forensic accounting motion. Next week, Robert would have preliminary findings on the business finances. And somewhere in all of this, Derek and Amanda were realizing that their careful planning had one fatal flaw. They'd left evidence. Every login, every designation change, every IP address and timestamp and digital footprint that proved exactly what they'd done and when they'd done it. You can't commit fraud in the digital age without leaving traces. And I was going to follow every single one. The pension board's formal reversal letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, certified mail requiring my signature. I stood in the kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd first logged into that retirement dashboard 3 weeks ago, and read through the legal language twice. Beneficiary designation dated March 14th has been revoked due to fraudulent submission. Original designation naming spouse as primary beneficiary has been reinstated. Member Amanda Christine Garrett has been flagged for potential criminal referral to the Nevada Attorney General's Office for investigation of fraud against a public pension system. I set the letter on the counter and pulled out my phone. Patricia Brennan answered on the second ring. "The board reversed it," I said, "and they're referring her to the AG." "Good." Patricia's voice was brisk, satisfied. "That's better than I expected. Most pension boards are terrified of criminal referrals. Too much paperwork, too much liability exposure. Someone over there must have been seriously pissed off about the forgery attempt." "What happens now?" "Now we use this in the divorce. I'm filing an emergency motion to freeze all her retirement accounts pending forensic review. The criminal referral gives us grounds to argue she's actively attempting to defraud marital assets. Judge Kowalski will grant it." I looked out the kitchen window at Amanda's car in the driveway. She was upstairs in her office, transcribing medical reports like this was a normal Tuesday. Like she hadn't just lost control of her entire pension. "When will she find out about the reversal?" I asked. "The board will send her notification within 48 hours. Certified mail, same as yours. She'll also get a letter from their legal department about the AG referral. She's going to know I reported it." "Of course she will." Patricia paused. "How's she been since you served her?" "Quiet. She stays in her office most of the day. Comes down for dinner, acts normal around the kids, sleeps in the guest room." "Has she tried to talk to you?" "Once. Asked if we could work this out without lawyers. I told her to speak to her attorney." Patricia made an approving sound. "Keep it that way. No private conversations, no negotiations outside counsel. She's going to panic when those letters arrive. Don't let her manipulate you into feeling sorry for her." I thought about Amanda's face across the dinner table last night, watching Sophie demonstrate her new cartwheel technique in the living room. She'd smiled and clapped, asked Tyler about his algebra test, reminded Madison about her orthodontist appointment Thursday. Perfect mother. Perfect wife. The woman who'd signed Derek's name as trustee on a $250,000 pension benefit meant for our children. "I won't," I said. The forensic accountant Patricia recommended was named Robert Vance, a former IRS investigator who'd gone private 5 years ago. We met in his office Wednesday afternoon, a converted warehouse space in the Arts District with exposed brick and industrial lighting. "Your business partner's been creative," Vance said, sliding a spreadsheet across his desk. "Not particularly sophisticated, but creative." I scanned the columns of numbers, highlighting in yellow and red. "How much?" "Approximately $83,000 over the past 14 months. Small amounts, spread across multiple accounts. Equipment purchases that never arrived. Subcontractor payments to shell companies. Inflated material costs with kickback arrangements." My hands tightened on the edge of the desk. $83,000. "That's what I can prove with the documentation you provided. There may be more if I dig deeper into the historical records." Vance leaned back in his chair. "The interesting part is the timeline. The embezzlement started in January of last year. Your wife's affair with Derek began in June, according to those phone records." I saw where he was going. "He was already stealing before they got involved." "Correct." "Which suggests the affair wasn't the motivation for the theft. It was opportunistic. He saw a chance to take money from the business, and he took it. The relationship with your wife came later." "Can you testify to this in court?" "Absolutely. I can provide expert testimony in both the divorce proceedings and any criminal case against Derek. This documentation will hold up." Vance tapped the spreadsheet. "You'll want to file a police report for embezzlement. I can provide this analysis to support the complaint. I thought about Derek in his corner office, taking calls with clients, shaking hands at the Riverside project groundbreaking last month. My partner for 6 years, the man I'd trusted to handle the financial side of the business while I managed operations. The man who'd been screwing my wife in our bedroom while stealing from our company. "Do it," I said. "Prepare everything for the police report." Amanda's car was gone when I got home that evening. The house felt empty, too quiet. I found a note on the kitchen counter in her handwriting. "Took the kids to your mom's for dinner. Back by 8. I checked my watch. 6:15. Almost 2 hours. The pension board letters would have arrived today. She'd know by now. I went upstairs to her office, the small converted bedroom where she worked during the day. The door was open. Her desk was neat, organized. 2 monitors, ergonomic keyboard, noise-canceling headphones hanging on a hook. Medical transcription software open on one screen, email on the other. I shouldn't look. Patricia had been clear about not accessing her personal accounts, not giving her ammunition to claim invasion of privacy. But this was the family computer in the family home, marital property. I moved the mouse. The email screen woke up, showing her inbox. The most recent message was from the Nevada Public Employees Retirement System, received at 2:47 p.m. Beneficiary designation. Reversal and investigation notice. I clicked it open. The email was formal, bureaucratic, devastating. It informed Amanda that her March 14th beneficiary designation change had been revoked due to evidence of fraudulent submission. It explained that the matter had been referred to the Attorney General's Office for investigation of potential criminal violations under Nevada Revised Statutes 286.695, fraud against a public pension system. It noted that such violations carried penalties of up to 10 years imprisonment and fines up to $10,000. Below that email was another one, sent at 3:02 p.m., from Derek. "We need to talk. Call me." Amanda's response, sent at 3:15 p.m. "I can't. He knows everything." Derek. "How much?" Amanda. "Everything. The pension, the designation, all of it. They're calling it fraud." Derek. "Jesus Christ." Amanda. "Amanda. What do I do?" Derek. "Don't contact me again. My lawyer says no communication." Amanda. "You're just going to abandon me?" No response after that. Derek had left her hanging, cut her loose the moment things got complicated. I heard the garage door opening downstairs. The kids' voices, Sophie's high-pitched chatter about something that happened at Grandma's house. I closed the email and went back downstairs, arriving in the kitchen just as Amanda walked in with Madison and Tyler. Sophie ran past them toward the living room, already talking about a TV show she wanted to watch. Amanda's eyes met mine. She looked tired, older somehow. Her makeup was smudged under one eye like she'd been crying. "We need to talk," she said quietly. "Speak to your attorney." "Please, just 5 minutes. The kids are watching TV." Tyler and Madison had disappeared into the living room. I could hear the television turning on, Sophie's running commentary. "No private conversations," I said. Patricia was clear. "I got letters today." Amanda's voice cracked slightly. "From the pension board, about the designation." "I know." Her eyes widened. "You reported it." "I reported fraud. The board investigated and agreed. It wasn't fraud. It was a mistake. I was going to fix it." I looked at her standing in our kitchen, the woman I'd shared 15 years with, 3 children, a mortgage, a life. The woman who'd lain in our bed with my business partner and then signed his name as trustee on her pension benefits. "You filed that designation from Derek's office," I said, "while you were logged into your work system from home. The board has the IP addresses, Amanda. You weren't here. You were there, in his office, physically present to submit that form. Her face went pale. How do you? The investigation was thorough. They pulled server logs, timestamps, location data. You want to claim it was a clerical error? Explain how you were in two places at once. She opened her mouth, closed it. Her hands were shaking. The Attorney General is reviewing the case, I continued. Patricia filed an emergency motion to freeze your retirement accounts. The judge will grant it. And Robert Vance, the forensic accountant, found $83,000 Derek stole from our business over the past 14 months. Amanda grabbed the counter edge like she needed support. 83,000? Equipment fraud, shell company payments, kickback schemes, all documented. I'm filing a police report tomorrow. I didn't know about that. I swear I didn't know Derek was… You made him trustee on your pension. My voice was flat, controlled. You gave him legal authority over hundreds of thousands of dollars meant for our children. You think I believe you didn't know he was a thief? She was crying now, tears running down her face. I made a mistake. I was confused. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to drive to his office and file the paperwork in person, clearly enough to lie about it afterward. What do you want from me? Her voice rose, desperate. You want me to apologize? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. Sophie appeared in the doorway, her small face concerned. Mommy, why are you crying? Amanda wiped her eyes quickly, forced a smile. I'm okay, baby. Just talking to Daddy about grown-up stuff. Go watch your show. Sophie hesitated, looking between us, then retreated to the living room. I waited until I heard the TV volume increase again. What I want, I said quietly, is for you to speak to your attorney. That's the only conversation we're having. Everything else goes through lawyers. You're really going to do this? Destroy our family over… I didn't destroy anything. The words came out harder than I intended. You did that. You and Derek. I'm just making sure you don't profit from it. She stared at me, and for a moment I saw something other than tears in her expression. Anger, maybe. Or fear. The pension board revoked your beneficiary change, I said. Your retirement accounts are frozen pending forensic review. Derek's being investigated for embezzlement and he's cut off all contact with you. Your attorney can't negotiate this away, Amanda. It's done. I walked past her toward the living room, toward the sound of my children watching television, their voices normal and innocent and untouched by any of this. Behind me, I heard Amanda's quiet sob, quickly stifled. I didn't look back. The divorce was finalized on a cold morning in January, 6 months after I'd first seen that notification on Amanda's phone. Judge Kowalski's courtroom was nearly empty. Just the lawyers, Amanda and me, and a court reporter documenting the end of 15 years. Patricia had been right about everything. The forensic accounting revealed another $42,000 Derek had siphoned from the business through fake vendor invoices. The Attorney General's office filed criminal charges against both of them, Amanda for pension fraud, Derek for embezzlement and conspiracy. They took plea deals 3 weeks before trial. Amanda got 2 years probation and community service. Derek got 18 months in minimum security and full restitution. I bought out Derek's share of the company for 30 cents on the dollar. His legal fees and the restitution order left him desperate enough to take it. Paulson and Webb became Webb Construction. I hired a new operations manager, restructured the finances, and landed the biggest commercial contract in the company's history 2 months later. Amanda moved into a small apartment in Henderson. She kept her medical transcription work but lost the pension. The board permanently revoked her benefits due to the fraud conviction. She got supervised visitation with the kids every other weekend, standard custody arrangement. I got the house, the retirement accounts, and primary custody. The kids struggled at first. Tyler stopped talking to Amanda for 3 months, angry in that way only teenage boys can be. Madison cried a lot, asked questions I couldn't fully answer. Sophie was too young to understand the details, just knew that mommy and daddy didn't live together anymore. But kids are resilient. They adapted. We found our rhythm: school, homework, soccer practice, family dinners. My mother helped with pickups when I had late meetings. The house felt different without Amanda, but it felt honest. I saw Derek once after everything settled, at a coffee shop near the courthouse. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. He started to say something, an apology, maybe, or an excuse. But I walked past him without acknowledgement. Some people don't deserve your words. On a Saturday morning in March, almost a year after everything started, I sat at the kitchen table with Tyler, Madison, and Sophie, reviewing their report cards. All good grades. Tyler had pulled his algebra score up. Madison made honor roll. Sophie's teacher wrote that she was a joy to have in class. "Can we get ice cream?" Sophie asked, swinging her legs under the chair. "To celebrate?" "Sure," I said. "After lunch." Tyler looked at me over his report card. "Dad, are you okay?" I met his eyes. So much older than 13 now, carrying weight no kid should have to carry. "Yeah," I said. "I'm okay." And I was. Not happy, exactly. Not the life I'd planned. But okay, because here's what I learned through all of it. You can't control what other people do. You can't prevent betrayal or stop someone from making choices that destroy what you've built together. Amanda made her decisions. Derek made his. They chose deception, chose greed, chose temporary pleasure over lasting commitment. But you can control your response. You can choose to protect yourself and your children with methodical precision. You can choose to document, to verify, to trust the systems designed to catch fraud and punish theft. You can choose to walk away from people who've proven they don't deserve your trust. Most importantly, you can choose not to become bitter. Not to let their betrayal poison your ability to build something new. I looked at my children sitting around the kitchen table, Tyler with his guarded eyes, Madison with her careful optimism, Sophie with her innocent joy, and I knew I'd made the right choices. Not the easy ones, not the ones that avoided pain or conflict, but the ones that protected them, that showed them their father wouldn't let anyone, not their mother, not my business partner, not anyone, put their security at risk. The house phone rang. I checked the caller ID. Amanda, calling about next weekend's visitation schedule. I answered it, kept my voice neutral, confirmed the pickup time, and hung up. "Was that Mom?" Madison asked quietly. "Yeah, she'll get you Friday at 6. Madison nodded, went back to her report card. This was our life now. Divided, rearranged, different from what I'd imagined at 23 when I'd proposed to Amanda on a beach in California. But it was honest. It was built on truth instead of lies, on verified facts instead of blind trust. And that, I'd learned, was worth more than any illusion of perfect marriage could ever be. We went for ice cream that afternoon, all 4 of us crowded into my truck, Sophie chattering about flavors, Tyler pretending he was too cool to care but ordering a double scoop anyway. The sun was warm for March, the sky impossibly blue. I watched my children laugh at something Madison said, and I thought, we're going to be fine. Not because the betrayal didn't matter, not because the pain wasn't real, but because I'd chosen to face it head on, to protect what mattered most, and to build something new from the wreckage of what was lost. That's all any of us can do when trust shatters. Pick up the pieces carefully, keep what's worth saving, and have the courage to start again.